I pray the Lord for forgiveness. Not trying to be another black statistic. I'm feeling like I'm on the coppers hit list. This shit looking sadistic. They're trying to hold me down for my mission, but I just bring the heat like a kitchen. That's word to Berkeley Street. Through God's hand, hope to use them right to fix it. Put the broken back together like some stitches. I'm knocking at the door of the enemy. They screaming out, who is this? I say it's Young Tools and we about to talk some business. They stutter when they speak.
What up, everybody? It's your boy BacardiSensei with Geeked, and on this episode, I have the man that started it all from a Facebook post, and now we are press at conventions. We interviewing celebrities. We putting together documentaries. This man needs no introduction, so I'm gonna let him take the floor for himself. Boy, tell you everybody who you are.
Man, what's good, world? Man, it's your boy Young Deuces. 1/3, 4th, I don't know. We got so many members now. But man, one of the creators of the Geekset podcast, only podcast that blend hip hop culture and geek culture together.
Hey! What's good, fam? How you doing?
Man, I'm doing good actually.
You doing good?
Yeah.
You doing good. All right, man. Thank you for coming through. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So while we before we get really deep into it, let's give everybody just a quick intro. Like, how did we get here?
Man, I guess my thirst for just wanting to talk about a culture. You know, I fell in love with podcasting before podcasting became like this huge thing that it is now. And, you know, at the time I was trying to do like a hip hop, you know, podcast. But I couldn't get, at the time, Bergie and like Maul, like, you know, the people from EMP,
yeah.
and them, they wasn't really interested in doing podcasting. And I knew that I couldn't float it myself, so I kind of like let it die out. But then it never stopped. I still wanted to do it. I wanted to hop in it. So then I was like, all right. And then that's when everything was going crazy. So I'm like, well, what else can I bring? What aspect? And I was like, well, I really love this geek culture. I was diving into a lot of anime at that time. Marvel was going crazy. So I was like, and you know, at that time I was watching all the Easter egg videos and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yo, this type of thing I really love. And at the time, Black Panther was just about to come out. And so I'm listening to all these podcasts talking about it, hip hop podcasts and geek podcasts talking about Black Panther, but nobody was highlighting the fact that Run the Jewels was on that first commercial.
Right.
Because to me that was crazy that like Run the Jewels for Disney, Marvel, that's the music that you heard on the first black superhero movie.
Yeah, that's dope. That was dope.
And I said, that's the niche right there. That nobody is talking about that angle, and I said, I know that me and my peoples will talk about that angle. And that's kind of what led to the birth of that.
And then we had the Facebook post, and
yeah.
Now we here.
Yeah.
Now we here. You know what I'm saying? Well, okay. I guess I'll ask you now, Lynn. So, before we doing the podcast and everything, what were you doing actually, like in employment and everything before jumping into podcasting?
I was working at a call center, man.
It was regular degular.
Working at a call center, G.
Okay. I mean, so then what made you make the big splash? What made you decide to, like, you know, this was going to be like the thing that you really wanted to do as far as podcasting and just kind of jumping in like head first of what we're doing with Geekset now?
I think it was the reaction that we was getting from people, right? Because when we first got into it, the whole main thing and the idea that we had was we just want to show that black people talk about this stuff, right? So we was just in it. It wasn't really about amplifying or shedding light or doing anything. We was just in it, right? But we would have these constant conversations with people, and that's what they would tell us. They was like, yo, you know, I want to join in. Y'all guys make me feel safe about it. And then when we did that first live, and we had, like, it was that blend of people who don't know anything about this culture.
Oh, yeah, our live event.
Yeah, our live event, and then people that was, like, really deep into this culture, and just seeing how we curated that space, a safe space where somebody can get up there and ask, like, all right, man, I don't know nothing about anime. Yeah, like, so, like, you know, like, who, like, when you talk about this, or, like, they start talking about, like, what's the Super Saiyan? Like, even the smallest things. But it was like, they felt comfortable to ask that in our space.
Right.
And the people who knew about it, they was excited to educate. It wasn't like, oh, get this nigga out of here. It was more like, yo, all right, let me put you on. And then even at the end, it was like people just, that conversation, people putting people on and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That was new to me. I never had a space like that. So seeing that, I was like, yo, this is crazy.
Yeah,
and
that was a
like,
dope space. That was a dope space that we had.
Yeah.
Being able to combine that. I think that was like that's like the soul of what Geekset pretty much is. So
yeah.
I think that was. So now, I mean, now you're in it. We've been running Geekset. I mean, we're on 6 years now.
6 years,
you know what I'm saying? So, and from your point of view, like, what do you think has been some of the hurdles that you think that you've ran into trying to keep us going?
How do I want to say this? Like, just seeing reaping the benefits of our hard work, right? And trying to see that, because there's oftentimes that I realize like the numbers aren't everything. But we come from a space where numbers mean everything. Like, it's kind of weird, right? So it's like every times where we do something amazing and I'm seeing it, I'm like, man, like this is dope. But the numbers are not matching. But when we're talking to people or the people that are seeing on the outside looking in, they're telling us how big this is, how much this meant. And so it's like, it's trying to understand that, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, like not getting caught up in those numbers. But it's also, you know, we're homegrown. We haven't really done much. Well, I take it back, we have. But it was like, we're homegrown to the point where our base operation is still in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Right.
Is where that's where a lot of things happen. That's where our 9 to 5 basically essentially of doing Geekset is at. So there's a lot of opportunities where it's like, dang, if we was there, that probably would have came a little bit easier.
Oh, like in another location.
Yeah, and stuff like that. So it's just a lot of the growing pains of being an indie, because we're pretty much an independent company.
Right. All right. Well, I mean, in the same realm of your hurdles, I actually do want to talk about something a little personal, because that happened earlier this year.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, before doing this, you were in the call center and everything like that. But you know, toward the beginning of this year, you had to take that leap, and you know, you pretty much was out of the call center, out of the 9 to 5 work life altogether. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like that was a really large hurdle.
That was a
big,
you had
to really kind of overcome. Like, how does that go for you?
Man, the first 2.5, 3 weeks was the scariest times of my life.
I believe it.
Because like I mean, as people who know me know, I kind of live in this positivity bubble, you know, and I have a positive outlook at life. But one of my biggest fears always, and it had always been, is that I'm not going to be able to provide for my family. So when I end up not having a job anymore and was relying solely on this, and my voice acting work, it was like I had some income coming in, but I was like not enough to really take care of the bills.
Right.
But I was like, you know what? I got a decent amount of 401k. I can float off of that and use that. But it was still just my mindset saying like, what am I going to do? Like, what am I going to do to bring this income in? And so that became like a big hurdle. And I started spending more time at headquarters. But when I was spending more time here, the creativity went crazy. I started just doing more just little shorts.
You had the time for it now.
I had the time. And when I started dedicating it, that's when I started seeing the kind of the residuals of the ideas. Like I was saying, like the numbers ain't hitting, but then the numbers started hitting a little bit better.
Right.
And, you know, then I'm like, well, I want to be put in this space. And then I started being thrusted into these spaces. And it was like, oh, snap. And then like I started learning just different skill sets that I didn't realize that I had, you know, working with Carl Jones and being part of his writing team. And it was like, this came out of nowhere. And it was like, but it was like things that started lining up. And I feel like it was, it was God telling me like, you've been wanting to do this. Because, you know, prior to that, I've been contemplating like, you know, when am I going to do this? When I'm going to do it? Right. And I never really did. And then God put me in a situation where it was like, I'm going to force you to do this. I'm going to force you to do it. Hey, with your ass right on the street. Like. So it became that. And so it was like, that's when things started just, now like the fear started to dwindle away. And I started feeling more confident in being a full-time creator.
That's great. Okay. I mean, as we talk about it, you just mentioned Carl Jones, which is shout out to Carl Jones. But I mean, that kind of just flows me right into my next question, because I feel personally, since you lost your job, that you've been on a high road personally. You know what I'm saying? I feel like you've accomplished a lot for your own self, like saying right now that you had to kind of take that leap and not go back to work and just kind of flow into this. I mean, from Watch Mojo to Carl Jones, I mean, can you tell everybody a little bit about just some of the big wins that you had for your own personal life, just to get you back settled to where you are now? Well,
I mean, during that time and trying to get back to this place, like I said, I was working with Carl Jones and building on that relationship, and just kind of working more with Martian Blueberry and all the things that he got going on over there. Watch Mojo pretty much up my workload and everything.
And I mean, what episode are you about to be on?
Well, I know I've surpassed it, so I hit my 100th episode. So now, I guess my next milestone probably be with 200, but yeah, I think I'm at like 107 now. So yeah, 107 episodes narrated. I got an agent during that time for my voice acting. So
that's dope.
That became big. That came, shout out to Shantae Waynes who helped me out for that, because like also building on that relationship with Shantae Waynes, doing like her tour promo, voicing over on that. But it's like everything where I was like, I want to get to a place where my talent is what's paying the bills, and it became that. It became like, it became majority of my income is coming from me using my voice, podcasting, voice acting, narrations, and everything like that. And it's like, wow, like
that's definitely dope.
Yeah.
You got to keep using your voice coming from, the musical background and everything like that. And which, like I said, which led me to a question I was going to ask, because I was going to ask that, like, do you feel from your past experiences, stuff that you've done, that benefits you now? Like, do you think that benefits you now and how you're in your successes of what we're doing with Geekset?
It 100% does, because even when I had my meeting with my agent, when I first was like going on to bring him on, he had this onboarding meeting to kind of just get a feel of who I am. And one of the things he was saying is, like, a lot of actors that he takes on, he generally has to walk them through everything with, like, mic control, how to get a mic, how to set studio time, and all of that. And he was like, because I already have all the equipment, he was like, you are already a step ahead. We can hit this ground running. And, it allowed me, even with Watch Mojo, the quick turnaround, me being able to engineer myself, record myself. Like I said, when they brought me on, it was just I can help you out with this one goal that you had, because I kind of put it out on Twitter, like, one of my goals in life is I just want to voice a Watch Mojo list. And then the actual Watch Mojo lady, Rebecca Brayton, hit me up and was like, hey, I can help you out with that. And when I did it, she said, I don't know if this is something that you want to do, but if it is, we would definitely like to have you to do.
Hit them hard real quick.
Yeah. And so I was like, yeah, sure. And she was saying, it's the turnaround. I have fast turnaround, but I'm bringing a different energy to the channel. And so it's like it's that as companies trying to grow, they want different personalities and things like that.
Right. So do you think it's good that you're bringing? Because Geekset, like we said, we're hip hop geek culture.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think in your and I'm still in more of your personal endeavors, you bringing your hip hop background now into these spaces like Watch Mojo, that doesn't have that? You know what I'm saying? Do you think that's like a really big impact that you're making now?
I think so, because it's like, one, what I love about working with them is that they listen to me, right? My voice is not a silenced voice, so they may send me a list, and I'm like, hey, you know what? I think this person should be here and that person should be there. And they be like, all right, we with it. Or I'd be like, you know what? I'm not gonna say it this way.
Right.
But again, I learned this lesson through my research of doing, like, how I interview people. One of these researches I was doing, and I ended up finding this interview with Samuel L. Jackson, and he was saying, like, every time somebody sends him a script, what he does is, like, no matter what, on set, he'll read the script as it is, but he's like, a lot of the time he ad-libs. He's like, I know it's going to sound better if I say it this way. So he said, out of respect for the writer and the director, I'm going to read it that way. But then I'm going to give y'all my take because y'all going to like my take. So because of that, and even with my voice acting, Watch Mojo and everything, I do that exact same thing.
Okay.
Right? They didn't ask me, and they didn't, but I'm like, I'm going to say this because I know it's going to sound better. So I do certain things a certain way, and then I'll do it their way, and then I'll do it my way. And then majority of the time, my way ends up in the final cut. And I believe because of me being an artist and being confident in just how I perform on stage, I went in immediately with that confidence, even to acting and voice acting. And I think that a lot of people, directors, writers, and everything, yes, they like to have their words, exactly said how it is. But one thing that a lot of them actually cherish the most is a collaborative effort with somebody just as confident as them. Right. So here I am. They're like, okay, yeah, we onboarded him, but he got confidence like crazy, and he's hitting exactly what we want. I think that helped me out a whole bunch.
Now that you have evolved and you've moved into this space now where you're voice acting, you're still doing interviews, you're just in this space now with a lot more of creators. Do you feel that you are getting the support and everything that you need in this space now that you're like more of a newcomer into it?
Yeah, it's kind of like two folds. I feel like I'm getting the support, but I'm also seeing the ugly truth of a lot of things, right? Okay. Because it's like, I'm getting the support. People really want to jump into the space. And as we talk countless times, I love that the culture trust in us to be the voice for certain things, or to be the ones that have to launch a platform for certain things. So it's like I am seeing that, and I'm loving that, because it's like that's exactly, as long as the culture loves it, right? But then you're seeing people who they're 1 foot in, 1 foot out, who want to help. Right. So yeah, as you're seeing with a lot of people with the 1 foot in, 1 foot out, you're seeing there's a lot of broken promises. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of not a lot of, oh yeah, we gonna work, but then it's not really we gonna work. Right. It's like what's going on? So it's like I'm seeing back and forth, but it only solidifies, and it's like I got this little nagging voice in my head, like, stop trying to be a part of so much stuff. you guys are actually the ones that are going to be putting something together that's big, right?
Right.
Because, you know, I'm a collaborative person. So it's like, I see things and I'm like, how can we fit in it?
Right, yeah.
And
instead of creating it,
and everything, no matter what, always comes back to somebody. This voice in my head saying, "Nah, y'all can fit in there, yes, but no, y'all mission is this."
Yeah.
And so it's like
really the show and tell.
Yeah.
Like, we gotta show everybody.
Yeah.
So in this space, and you know, like I said, as you keep going and you're supported now, and you're in this space, like what inspires you, or who inspires you to constantly kind of keep pushing and trying new things and trying to just keep going forward with new ideas?
So it's really the team. The team is one of the biggest inspirations that I have. But it is that, because throughout our conversations and the ideas that we have, it like, I feel like once we found out exactly who we were and what our mission was, the creativity came, right? So it's now, you know, when you telling me something, or Didge, or King, or, you know, Jake, or, you know, Trip, like, you know, even Yace, shout out to Yace, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
but like,
shout out to Yace.
you know, every time I'm hearing the ideas, my main focus is, how do we make this happen, right? Right. So it's like, and because I'm like, I see the bigger purpose of it, right? This fits this fits that, and it's going to make sense on what we're doing with still blending hip hop culture and geek culture. And then again, the culture itself, because their trust in us came from the conversations that we had about this is needed, right? We know that there's certain aspects of this culture that's needed, and because this culture is so still brand new and still, you know, in its infancy, I'm like, I want us to help that. I don't want anybody to come in and poach on it and do it the wrong way.
Right.
And I feel like the culture, they see that in us and like, okay, well, we know that y'all are going to do that. And I think because, you know, no matter what, we may have hot takes on like this comic book or whatever like that, but a lot of those polarizing conversations, we are very neutral on it. And that wasn't something that we all talked about. It kind of just naturally, our personalities were like, you know what, like, why is that the focus? You know, like, we want this to be the focus. So that inspiration comes from that. I see what other people did in other cultures, and I'm like, yeah, we can do that for blurred culture. And so now I'm like, yeah, I want to elevate that. And then the people that we meet outside of just the culture itself, we're meeting so many people that have so much dope things that they're doing, so many things that we are fans of. And, you know, I often think about, like, even during my music time, when that was my sole focus on doing music, there be moments that I create or that I did, and I'm like, man, it would have been dope if somebody did this for me for this. It would have been dope if, like, when I did this, the reaction was this. And so I became the change that I want. I'll say, you know what? I know what I would want, that little bit of extraness that I would want. And I said, I want to give that to people. I want to be that person that person that you do the cosplay in your head. You put this cosplay together. You're going to that convention. You're like, oh, I know I'm gonna shut it down. People are gonna go crazy, and sometimes it may not happen. But I'm like, nah. If I'm there, I'm gonna make that happen. And, you know, I want that because I know that's you didn't do that just for just a few people to be like, hey, can I take a photo? Like, no, you wanted that moment where people are like, oh shit, you such and such. Right. And I'm like, yeah, let's do that. You know, you want to talk about your process. You want somebody to ask you what went into this. I want to do that. I genuinely have a thirst for people's process, their passion, their love, and, you know, I want to know what goes into it. And I know, like I said, and I knew that because I would want people to ask me that. There be things that I do in my music that I'm like, man, I can't wait till somebody asks me that. And then nobody asked me about that moment. I'm like, dang. So I'm like, I know how I felt. And so I was like, I don't want nobody to feel like that. So that
Papa in the CD, they're just like, dog, you can, let me run this part back. Let me run this part back. You must have didn't hear it. You
ain't hear that drop. You ain't hear that. Like, you ain't hear how the beat went. It went back up. Like, oh man, you ain't hear that.
I get that. I mean, and like I said, I feel like we all see that in you anyway. Like I said, when we do our conventions, and you with the camera, since we've been doing conventions, it's pretty much that. It's like the epitome of what it is, like what you've been always trying to put across. It's like your photography with everybody, and just, you know, pulling all these cosplayers in together. It's always been a beautiful thing to see. You know what I'm saying? And I think that we don't have a lot of that in the market, in our culture at all. That there's like that kind of free support. Yeah. So I mean, what advice would you have for pretty much, whether it be the voice actor, the person who wants to create the podcast, the person that wants to get into interviewing celebrities, the person that wants to get into creating content, or, you know, just someone who wants to step into one of the shoes that you've already, that you have, like what would you give that man or woman as some advice to get here?
The biggest advice, and the one thing that keeps me going with a lot of things, is those small wins, make them big to yourself, right? Because a lot of people, we compare ourselves to the best of the best, right? The reason why you got into something is because somebody was at the top of their level that you were a fan of, and you're like, oh, I can do that, right? You know what I'm saying? And you got to understand that perfection or being a master of your craft doesn't come within that second year. Even if you are a prodigy, you still have so much time before you actually get that stamp of being people like, you are at the top of your game, right? So it's like, there's small wins that happen that I hold near and dear to my heart that I'm like, this is not big. I say it online all the time. It may not be big to some, but it's huge to me.
Right.
Because you got to hold on to those little moments, right? And so it's like, understanding that, like, okay, yeah, I'm doing, for voice acting, when I was during my journey, I got an audio podcast that I was a part of, right? For me, I was like, man, this is an audio podcast, a scripted one, I get to act, and it may got 50 views or whatever. There's 50 people that heard me get into a character. I take that as a win, For me, like I said, when we do certain things, this blog covered us, man, whoever that blog audience, they never heard about Geekset.
Right.
They know who we are right now. You know what I'm saying? Even with with Watch Mojo, I'm like, man, that first few, there was a couple of hiccups, you know what I'm saying, in pronunciation. A couple of people in the crowd didn't like me, but I'm like, man, you know what? There's 5 people that may be shouting loud that, I hate this guy, this new narrator. But this video got 47,000 views. So 5 out of 47,000, that's not a bad average.
That's
you know what I'm saying? So I'm taking those small wins and not letting those detractors get me down or stray me off the path. So it's like, no matter what journey, like I said, you're getting into interviewing, knowing that, like, you may interview somebody that you feel is super dope, right? And that may get 100, 200 views, but the residuals on how things can happen if you stay consistent, if you continue to go at it, that's somebody that may reach back out. I mean, my whole situation with Carl Jones was I interviewed him just to be on one-on-one with Deuces.
Right.
He liked and respected what we were doing as a team, reached back out to bring me into the fold. So it's like, so understanding, like, yes, certain things may not have the output that you see. You may be watching this person who interviews people and like, they get 1 million views. I know with this person, I'm going to get 1 million views. That's not going to be the case all the time. And if it's not the case, how do you react to that? Right. If you let that get you down and you let that, throw you off, and then you're not going to be able to continue. But if you take that win for what it is and continue to grow and continue to grow and continue to grow, even those old ones come back and it's like, oh yeah, man, that was a dope moment. And now you have moments where you can kind of like look back and track things back, like, oh yeah, I remember that first time I interviewed you there, and it's like, oh yeah, we did that, and you see them in person, and now it's like, yo, let's go grab a drink, and now you kicking it with somebody that you were a fan of,
right?
Out of the blue, off of just because you wanted to create some dope content. So it's like, take those small wins and make them huge to yourself.
That was good. I liked that.
Yeah,
I liked that a lot. That was really great. Snap. All right, man. Well, again, thank you for stepping in. Let me interview. Let me talk to you.
Yeah,
I appreciate the moment. This is BacardiSensei with Geeked. Young Deuces, do you want to tell everybody where to see you at?
Man, let's hear it. Follow me everywhere, young_Deuces. I'm going to be start doing way more stuff with my voice acting and showing that journey more. So I definitely want to show people that my whole idea, and I was having a conversation with somebody about this, so this will be real quick, but I was saying my whole idea for my journey, because of how I got into it, it kind of was like a stumble into it.
Right.
And I want to show people that the highs and the lows, even with my Watch Mojo list, I be struggling sometimes on the basic words, but it is that sometimes those basic words throw you off and you don't realize it. And I want people to see that, because some people think you have to be perfect in every aspect. And it's like, no, you just got to have a good team with you. You got to be able to understand, like, okay, I may not be able to get it on this first tape, but let me just continue to work on it. And you can see how that goes and continues to go. So, like, young_Deuces everywhere. Follow me everywhere. And then, of course, Geekset Podcast.
Of course, Geekset Podcast.
Yeah.
All right, we are out of here. I'll catch you guys later in the next episode.
Like some stitches, I'm knocking at the door of the enemy. They screaming out, who is this? I say it's Young Deuces and we about to talk some business. They stutter when they speak. I gotta move.